What's up, guys? There's a couple things I wanted to point out about this knife, just some things I wanted to hint on, if I can get it to focus. Mentioned the lockup in my last video. There was a couple reasons I didn't like titanium lock bars with steel lock bar inserts, and I was going to expound on that now. There are a couple benefits to it, and one being you're going to have a longer lasting lock, so it's going to wear better. And there's one thing that you don't have to worry about with a steel lock bar insert, and that's having really early lockup. So a lot of people are concerned about having really early lockup. I was guilty of it. I'm still am on some knives. Some knives it's not an issue if you have really early lockup, but if you have a hard use knife, you don't want to have super early lockup with a titanium lock interface. Reason being, titanium doesn't have the same shear strength as steel. So let's say you have 10% lockup like this, and you have a really high compression load on the blade. So the blade's trying to close. Doesn't matter what's causing that load, you have that load, that's the scenario. If you have that really shallow engagement on the steel, on the titanium lock bar, you can actually shear the corner of this titanium off, and you'll be left with a non-functioning titanium frame lock, essentially. Kylie Harris actually exhibited the same issue with a ZT561, albeit he had to abuse it very badly for it to actually shear, but it does show what that failure looks like. So keep that in mind. Steel lock interfaces do give you two benefits. They're going to wear a lot longer, and you don't have to worry about that shearing of the lock bar. One thing I do not like about steel lock interface is the fact that it's very slippery. What I mean by slippery is titanium will gall on steel, and that's what causes the stick. So when your titanium lock bar sticks, it's actually galling. And what galling is essentially a bond on the molecular level between titanium and steel. So if you actually research this, and it may be hard to believe, but it's what's going on. Every time your titanium lock bar sticks, you're actually losing a bit of the titanium every time you unlock the knife. The titanium is bonding with steel on a molecular level. Every time you break that seal, you're losing a bit of the titanium, and that's what causes a really accelerated wear with titanium lock bars when they're sticking very badly. Galling's a really well-known phenomenon. That's what's happening, and that's why a little dry lubricant like graphite can stop the galling, because it acts as a physical barrier between the titanium and the steel. Anyway, what that galling does is actually help prevent the lock bar from traveling in really far, and also helps the stability of the lock. With a steel on steel lock, you're going to have really good geometry, otherwise you're going to have slipping. What I mean by slipping is the steel doesn't gall on steel. Hardened steel lock bar will not gall against hardened steel blade. It's going to be really slippery is the only word I can use. There's going to not be a huge friction coefficient there. What that ends up giving you is a lock bar which you can press over like that really easily. This is something I've noticed on essentially every steel lock bar knife. So I don't have my Shirogorov here, but you can actually press it over really easily. This one you have to give it a little bit of a push, not a whole lot actually. It doesn't take a whole lot of force to get that lock bar to move over. Now, I said I was going to use this knife really hard, and I've already started to do that. I have a couple nicks in the blade that I've tried to sharpen out a little bit, just a cursory sharpening with my DMT pocket stones. But carving wood with this knife, as you can see, there's a couple houses being built across the street. I went over there and just carve on wood, carve on fiberboard, carve on cement hardy plank. Stuff is really hard on knives. So what I was doing is just testing out the stability of the lock, which I'm happy to say, after all that hard carving and actual impact on the edge, the lock bar had moved over to about this point. It had not moved over all the way and didn't stick when I unlocked it. That's good. Second good thing is I actually have no lock rock. I actually had a little bit of lock slip before I did that test, and now that the lock has settled in a little bit, I have no more lock slip. So it's solid as it can be. And this is a different one, a different piece than I did the review on. So when I decided I was going to abuse this knife, I got the one that had a little bit of lock slip just to see what would happen. Next thing I noticed is that I hit a rock really, really hard with the edge, and the edge was damaged a little bit, but not as severely as I had thought it would be. The only reason I'm pointing that out is because if there were any issues with the steel on this, with embrittlement, anything like that, I would have noticed it in that scenario, I think. Of course, I could be wrong on that, and but I don't think I am. So far, it's acting really well. That's the only issue I have with it, is the ability to push the lock over all the way. Should not be an issue, I don't think, but we'll see over time. So far it's doing well. Not staying overly sharp, but I was cutting cement board, fiber board, things like that. So anyway, I'm going to make a little highlight reel. I have some little clips that I have now, and I'm going to record more and make kind of a montage of hard use with this knife. So anyway, I do want to say that not all steel lock interfaces are subject to that phenomenon of being able to be pushed over. Microtechs are the only knives I've ever had that I can't really push over, and I'm exerting more force on this than I was on that ZT, and it just doesn't push over. So that's something of a testament to Microtech's really good geometry. So they figured out the steel blade on steel lock bar, obviously. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll keep you updated.